Let's just remind you of the statement issued some 20 minutes ago by NATS, the air traffic control system operators. This morning's technical issue affecting our ability to automatically process flight plans until our engineers have resolved this. Flight plans are being input manually, and that means we cannot process them at the same volume. Hence, we have applied traffic flow restrictions, having a huge impact on the UK airspace, even though that airspace isn't closed down. An earlier statement from NATS said our engineers are working to find and fix the fault. Pretty worrying it might be that it hasn't been pinpointed yet, given this has gone on for a number of hours. Let me just tell you about Ryanair passengers waiting at Stansted Airport in Essex. Said there were cheers when 2 flights to Copenhagen and Paphos were announced for boarding amid all these delays. Well, it might have been announced for boarding. Doesn't mean they're going to get off the ground, does it? Let's bring in Lisa Minot, travel editor of The Sun. Good afternoon to you. So, well, here we are on a bank holiday Monday for most of the UK. These things always happen at really one of the worst times, don't they?
It couldn't have come at a worse time, as you say. More than 1 million people were due to be either arriving or departing from UK airports today. And this is actually the busiest weekend of the year since October 2019, pre-pandemic days. So it could not have come at a worse time. And the fact that it's gone on for so long means that this is going to definitely start to impact flights all the way into next week.
And what flights are impacted? Is it across Europe or a worldwide issue?
That this is a worldwide issue. This is any flight that hadn't, as you say, yet submitted its flight plans or had those flight plans processed. Now, that means that planes were continuing to land here in the UK and take off for a few hours because those plans had already been done. But now it's all being done manually. It's going to be much slower, and it's going to impact flights across the globe. So I'm already seeing flights that were due to be landing here into the UK from other places, long haul, now not even showing up until sort of say 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And that's if that actually goes ahead. So it's going to really impact a huge number of people.
Yeah, many people, I guess, wanting to go back to work tomorrow after the bank holiday. The statement from NATS earlier said engineers are working to find and fix the fault. Now, the first we heard of this was really from Logan Air, wasn't it, just before midday? So this has been going on at least 3 hours. Pretty concerning. They've still got to identify what's happened.
Well, my understanding is from somebody who used to work at air traffic control that this issue was first identified about 8:30 this morning, but the system itself can continue for about 4 hours. At that point, they had to then inform airlines that flight plans were having to be processed manually and at the same time restrict the number of flights that were going to be taking off and landing purely because it now has to be done manually and not automatically. So this has been going on for a significant length of time now.
Just remind us how bad this is going to end up.
Well, as I say, there was due to be 1 million people either arriving or departing from UK airports today. Some flights have gone off, as you say, and some flights will continue to go. But that's what's going to happen is that those flights that are perhaps heading into the UK at this point, crews are going to go out of hours. There's going to be a point where the crews will no longer be able to actually operate those flights, even if they did actually manage to get those flight plans authorised. You're going to have planes in the wrong places, crews in the wrong places, and that's going to mean that for airlines, this is an absolute organisational and logistical nightmare.
People might be worried, mightn't they, watching this, thinking our planes or relatives might be in the air and worried about safety given this huge breakdown. Should they be?
No, I mean, the very reason that we've had these restrictions onto the number of planes that are taking off and landing is because it's being done manually. They're making sure that, standards of safety are maintained. It's just not going to be able to process the same number as the automatic systems would have done. So safety will be the number one priority. I can understand people being concerned, but that's why they're making sure that, flights are only taking off when it's absolutely safe to do so.
We do have problems, don't we? System failures before. So how would you categorise this one? It seems huge.
It's one of the most significant ones I've seen in a long time, mainly because it affects all of the UK. And the fact that, we have, in the past seen sort of like isolated incidents, particularly in the last year, we've had a lot of problems with French air traffic control going on strike and that impacting flights coming in and out of the UK just because we're actually overflying France and that being a big issue. But the fact that this is such a total outage created not outage as in I'm saying, there are still planes landing and taking off, but at a much slower rate. And so that is going to impact lots more people.
Why do these things always seem to happen at the weekend or, well, it's bank holiday today?
You would you have to wonder, don't you? It does always seem to be at the busiest times, and I can imagine as for airlines, this, as I say, it's a logistical nightmare because you've got so many people in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it's going to start impacting flights across Europe. If you've got these big global airlines like even European airlines like EasyJet and Ryanair, that's going to impact them as well, and other flights throughout Europe itself. So this is going to have real impact on people, and I think it's just going to require, unfortunately, for those poor people stuck on planes and stuck at airports, a lot of patience.
In matters like this, are they kept informed about what's going on? Time and time again, we've talked, haven't we, in the past about airlines and airports not being very forthcoming with what's going on. People are just stranded without any reason.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be one of those situations where it is going to be very frustrating for people. You're going to have every airline in the UK currently talking to the NATS system, the air traffic control people. They're having calls with them constantly at the moment to try to work out what planes they can prioritise, what plans they can put through. And it is going to take time before the situation will become clearer. All I can say is that make sure that you've downloaded your airline's app. Make sure that you've got the airline's details on your phone so that you know how to contact them. And importantly, they know how to contact you. They will be dealing with sort of talking to the lead passenger who made the booking. So make sure that phone remains charged and that you can actually still access your emails and perhaps your text messages. All you can do is wait to see for the airline. What I would say, though, and I think this is really important, although this is a logistical nightmare for airlines, they do have a duty of care to passengers. Although there's no compensation due because this is a situation outside of their control, it's an extraordinary circumstance, but they still have a duty of care to passengers. They should be making sure that they're being given water, they're given food. And I think what will gradually happen is if this carries on much longer, they will have to be finding hotels for these people because flights won't be taking off and landing in the middle of the night. That's just not possible. So it's going to be a situation that I think is going to continue, and people need to make sure that they're aware of their rights. They are due food and drink and a hotel accommodation, but it's going to be a very fast moving and very difficult situations for airlines.
Is that down to goodwill, the hotel accommodation, or do they have to do that?
No, that's a legal obligation. The issue is that when you have many thousands of people all having to try to be put into hotels at the busiest time of year, remember this is still the end of the school summer holidays, lots of people still heading off perhaps on holidays, those coming back. There's not going to be thousands of hotel rooms available. You have got the situation that if people haven't been able to get out to hotels, then yes, there will be some hotels left there, but it's going to be quite a chaotic scene. If you are going to do it yourself, if you're going to make sure that you've decided you want to get yourself into a hotel because your flight is due to be delayed overnight, make sure it's reasonable expenses, keep all your receipts, and you should be able to claim that back from your airline.
One point, a political point, the opposition are piling into this. Labour saying surprised not to see our Transport Secretary make a statement yet. And the Lib Dems say Rishi Sunak and his ministers need to get a grip on this issue urgently and hold a COBRA meeting. Is it as serious as that? And would that have any effect at all were that to happen?
I'm not sure that would have any impact on what's actually happening. The current government can't fix the technical issues that are happening at NATS at the moment. They can perhaps, have those meetings. Yes, they should be looking at just the sheer number of people that could be impacted by this, but they can't really do anything themselves when we have got, a technical issue that only really the engineers at NATS can sort out themselves.
All right, Lisa Minot, very good to talk to you as always. Thank you for explaining all of that for us. All very complicated, but I'm sure our viewers will be much better informed. Thank you for that.